we were talking about how to balance work and meditation in our lives, and how to have a balanced attitude towards them both. And I was telling of Swami Kriyananda, Yoganandaji, and of my own life in this regard. And Swamiji told us, gives us the advice to make our own inner peace be our bottom line in activity, in relation to the world, that let nothing disturb our own inner peace, and that everything outside of ourselves will work itself out if we make that our bottom line. And Swamiji, in talking about the spiritual life, says the spiritual path would, one suspects, be relatively easy to understand if it involved only meditation, ecstatic visions, and a blissful expansion of consciousness. Why, one asks, must it be complicated by mundane activities like ditch digging and letter writing and cleaning up kitchens? Well, certainly this romantic notion of the spiritual path being all about just meditation and ecstatic visions, it's a very common misconception. And it's one that somehow personally I was never attracted to that. To me, it's like the spiritual path at first was presented to me through transcendental meditation, which was at that time in 1970 presented to the public as a science, as a technique that one would gain great peace of mind, one would gain self-realization simply through self-effort. There was no talk of devotion, or even, we were instructed to only meditate and do nothing else. Don't do yoga asanas, don't develop devotion, don't chant. And then at the same time, if at that time the public presentation of ISKCON was only chant, and chant only the Mahamantra, don't meditate, don't do Hatha Yoga or other spiritual activities. And perhaps it was necessary at that time in the West to present the spiritual path in such simplistic ways, because people could grasp one thing, but perhaps only one thing at a time. And for me, it just wasn't enough. I wanted much more. Immediately after I learned transcendental meditation, I became a rebel. And along with several friends, we were told we must meditate only 20 minutes twice a day, no more. And immediately we would meditate 40 minutes twice a day, just to see what the results would be. And I immediately enrolled in a Hatha Yoga course because I knew it could help me. And I started to attend chanting sessions, kirtan with other groups, because I wanted more. I loved meditation so much, I wanted to make it my whole life. I knew that it should be a way of life, an attitude towards life, and that there must be some way of bringing the peace of meditation into daily activity, into interactions with others, into my work. Now, where did I get these ideas? It could only have been from past lives. There was nothing outwardly to encourage me in these ideas at all. Now, as I say, it's a desire of many people that meditation be a world unto itself, an escape from a worldly environment, and that, I can just forget that and leave it all behind, and then I meditate, and I can go deep, I can feel the divine presence, and that is part of the picture. And as Swamiji said, it seemed like it would be so simple if that was all there was to it. But there's the other part. How can I bring, as Swamiji said, that peace of mind, how can I bring it into a situation of conflict? How can I bring it into my attitude towards work, towards relations with others? And then things start to get more complicated, more challenging. When after meditating for a year, I went to live at Ananda village in an ashram situation, there too, the desire of many people was to have as simple a life as possible, to be devoted to meditation and not have to think about very much else. But that was not to be the case. And part of it was that just the physical reality, that we were living on a bare piece of land, basically in the wilderness. There were no roads, there was no electricity, there was no money to bring those things in. How could we live? We had to create ways of living. We had to plant and grow our own food. We had to create our own roads. We had to work to earn money to develop this bare land. And I know many times in those difficult first years, and I say difficult on the physical plane, but on the spiritual plane, they were just heavenly. But on the physical plane, many times I would sort of think, well, hopefully in a few years things will get easier, more comfortable, that I wouldn't have to walk for a couple of kilometers in the rain, in the snow, to get to my office job and back home. I wouldn't have to carry my groceries on my back in a rucksack. That things would somehow be more comfortable. And when, with the passing of time, things did become more comfortable, they didn't become simpler. They became more complicated. At the beginning, we were all very young. Most of us were single. And then with the passage of time, many people got married. Many people started having children. And that meant earning much more money to raise a family. It meant many questions of relating to in a family situation, and schooling for the children, the health of all the family members, so many questions. And yet the foundation that we had started, that spiritual foundation, helped address each one of those situations in life. And so too, this is the challenge for each one of us, to go deeply in meditation and then to apply what we've learned to our daily life situations. And to answer Swamiji's question, why does the spiritual path involve also an outer life? Why does it involve the digging ditches and the other kind of work, of complications? Because the sole purpose of this karma yoga, of this outward activity, is to purify the heart, is to make us stronger, to make us a larger vessel for God's energy. And as Swamiji went on in the new path to say further, if one could meditate deeply all day, there would be no need for a person seeking divine communion to dig ditches or do any other work, whether physical or mental. But the criterion is the word deeply. Just how deeply can we meditate all day long? There was a story of another sister disciple of Swamiji, Mrinalini Mata, and when she came to Master with her mother when she was very young, and just as a schoolgirl, Guruji met her at the breakfast table, and he said to her, "You didn't meditate this morning." And she was rather indignant, and she said, "Sir, I meditated a whole hour." And he replied to her that you should have meditated only half an hour, because he could see that she was not meditating with intensity of effort. He would say, intensity is everything. And this is the beautiful thing that we learn from the energization exercises. How simple they seem, but when we can do them with intensity of awareness, we gain so much, because by learning to channel the physical energy with intensity of awareness, we can bring that same awareness into our meditation. And that same awareness into activity during the day when we need it. We have that energy at our command, under our control. Last Tuesday, a week ago, we also had this conversation, this discussion, and during the day I was just caught up all day long in meetings and in my own work, and after working intensely all day long, I realized, oh my gosh, I have only a half hour left before this session starts with you. and I had not consciously prepared for the session at all. And usually, maybe for a couple of days beforehand, after my morning meditation, I would allow some ideas to come of topics we might explore. And then I would have on Tuesday perhaps a couple of hours to organize those thoughts in some way. But here I was with only a few minutes before it was time to begin. And what happened is I was forced to concentrate my mind with intensity, to pray intensely, to make myself a channel, to ask God to make me a channel, ask Swamiji and Master to make me a channel, to ask them, what would you want me to say? How can I convey the message that you have for everyone this evening? And it's an example simply, and the end results, I don't know how they were, but I don't think they were worse than times that I had much longer to prepare. This isn't to say that when we have a discourse or an important meeting that we shouldn't prepare, that we should just pray intensely beforehand. Certainly that helps, but also that in general, that preparation helps. But for those of us who have been meditating, let's say for years, all of that experience is also part of our preparation, that we can probably present these teachings more clearly if we consciously prepare beforehand. But the most important thing is to pray, is to open ourselves to be a channel for the light and the truth of Guruji and the Masters to flow through us. As Master said, intensity is everything. You must be calmly active and actively calm. He also said the minutes are more important than the years. People who put their whole concentration into working for God when they're active find that they can also meditate more deeply. This is how the two activities help each other to consciously work for God, consciously draw His presence to us when we're outwardly serving. And the more that we can do this consciously, the more we live that intensity, that high positive energy during the day, and we bring that high positive energy into our meditation. And the other aspect of this is that our intense work during the day is not a restless, stressful attitude, but as Swamiji says, we do our best to hold on to our inner calm, to make that our bottom line, even as Master said, even when we're in the battle din of activity, to hold on to that inner calm. And Master also said, when you work for God, not for yourself, that is just as good as meditation. Then work helps your meditation, and meditation helps your work. You need the balance. With only meditation, you become lazy, and the senses become strong. That is not the result that one would think that one would get from meditation. Master said, with only work, the mind becomes restless, and you forget God. Well, that's a more familiar situation for many of us. But it's true also that without karma yoga, without bringing these teachings also into our daily lives, that meditation alone can make us lazy. It can make us egotistical. We each need the balance of the two.